Welcome to Leadership Unlocked, an interview-style podcast providing insights on how to lead people. Proudly brought to you by Human Interactions Australia. Welcome to Leadership Unlocked. This week we have the Head of Growth and Engagement from Clyne Partners Chartered Accountants, Melissa Davis. So, Melissa, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Absolute pleasure. I've seen you all over LinkedIn, and hence the reason I reached out. So we don't have any connection at all other than LinkedIn. So tell us a little bit about you and the role that you do at Clyne Partners.
So currently I'm the Head of Growth and Engagement at Clyne Partners, which means that I am in charge of the marketing department, in charge of the business development department, and then I support with HR. So any new hires, I find them, as well as supporting them with the manual and a matrix and anything else that has to do with growth. So software systems updating, culture things, anything that, even office. At one point we were like, we should move office. And I was like, sure. So I found them, we could either buy these 3 locations or rent these 3 locations. And I made fit out drawings of what it would look like. So anything, I love big puzzles. So I try to always fit all the pieces into a giant puzzle.
Yeah, and this is interesting because your background is not that.
It's interesting because all the skills that I have, though, feed this directly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, yes, you are correct. My background does not, it doesn't, but all of them put together equals this, basically.
Yeah. Awesome. So I reached out to you because you have a very strong presence online and social, and very much about women taking their place in leadership.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk to that for a little bit? Because I think it's a really interesting space you're commenting on, and I kind of like the approach you're taking as well.
So a couple of months ago, earlier this year, there's other projects I'm involved with first. So I'm a founder of Expat Women at Work with 5 other women, and we created a society that supports expat women when they first come to this country. When I first came to this country, I didn't know anyone, and I didn't have any resources within this business world to get connected. So it was really isolating and really lonely, and I wanted to make sure that no other woman ever felt like that. And a couple of other women I was connected with, they also felt that way. So together we created this society that hopefully when women come to this country, not only do they get a mentor from their country, so someone that can kind of like culturally explain how Australia is and what it is, and then also get a mentor within their business. So if someone's within marketing, they also get to connect with someone who's already within that world here. And that will help the transition so much. So we're going to work with embassies and things like that. So once women actually get a visa to come here, we are actually one of the first points of contact. So that's going to be a long-term goal. I'm a founder of Antipodes Theater Company with 5 other people. And that theater company is 2 years old, has a staff of 6, an advisory board of 10 CEOs that we've put together. We built over 11 programs in this last year for artists and for people to re-engage with the community. But all those things put together, earlier this year, I made a post on a tram on the way home. I was exhausted. I had been in meetings all week for the 4 different organizations that I'm a part of. And I was thinking to myself, I've become the CEO that my mother wanted me to marry. And it wasn't because my mother wasn't forward thinking, because she was, but my mother was a cleaning lady. My mother was a wallpaper hanger. And the idea that the best I could get in my life was probably to marry a CEO. And so she made me go take tennis lessons. And I was like, I really don't like tennis. I'm a ballerina. And she was like, well, you're going to need to know tennis because one day your husband might be a businessman and you got to be able to play doubles so that you can join him in tennis.
Wow.
And so that's why I took tennis. And my mother put me in ballroom dance classes. And I was like, Mother, I don't like ballroom dance. I'm a ballerina. And she was like, no, but one day you might be married to an ambassador and you might be at gala events and you're going to need to know how to waltz. And it's important. But all those visions that she had for me even teaching me many languages. Like when I was little, she's hello and goodbye and thank you. Because she said, maybe you'll be married to a businessman who travels. So I realized earlier this year that I was becoming the CEO that my mother wanted me to marry. And I made this post and it exploded online. It was about 1.4 million right now views. And it resonated with so many different women. And that was my first wake-up call to realize that I wasn't the only one that felt that way. Yeah. And then I started looking at the numbers of how many women are in leadership. And I was like, what is this? I was like, I thought we were way past this, because I have been surrounded by very supportive men in business. Honestly, I have not had too many negative experiences. So I really thought that women had taken their place into leadership, but they hadn't. They hadn't yet. And I was like, what is happening? And I realized it was because people like me didn't know that we could. Like, we didn't know it was an option, number one. And we don't ask for a seat at the table. Like, we think that there's this pathway that we follow, and then at one point they're going to open the doors. But really what they don't know is you actually have to open the door yourself. You have to knock on the door. And that doesn't mean pound on the door. And that doesn't mean I deserve to be here. It really is just taking your place in leadership, because that's what men do. Men just walk into a space and they say, I'd like to be here. Is that okay? Yeah. And everyone else is like, yeah, sure. And women say, hi, is it okay? I don't really know. Or if they do come off really strong, then they're treated in such a negative way. So we got to find that balance where no one's the enemy, and women actually just go from, I think it's 20 and 30% of leadership roles are filled by women in Australia. Just get that up to just half. I'm not asking for more than 50%. I'm saying women take their spot. As we are 50% of the workforce, we should be 50% of the leaders. That's it. Yeah. And so for men, it's really about being a good ally and inviting the women into the room. And men who say, oh, we are advanced and this company is looking forward. How many partners at your company are women? Honestly. And if it's none, then you know your answer. There are so many women right outside that main door of that final room, that final decision-making room. There are women outside that room that know what to do. They've been a part of your company for 15, 20 years.
What are their typical positions, these women that are just outside the door? Are they in C-suite roles, or are they just under that role?
Yeah. Honestly, you can train up anybody, and it's not about inviting them into the room and immediately expecting them, giving them responsibility either. It's just letting people into the room that are of different ages and from different backgrounds and diverse hires to just sit within that final room and get educated of how partners actually do that final space. Right. And how are we supposed to, as women, know how to move $100 million for a company, making that decision of what is good and bad, unless they're actually invited into that final room where those shareholders are sitting there with the CEO and with the board going, okay, we're going to buy this other company and merge with it. What are our thoughts? Just having them within that space, giving their opinion, not necessarily voting. That's how you train. That's how you educate. So it's inviting women into the room.
And do you think, bad question. What are your thoughts on why that doesn't happen now?
Because people are stuck in their own little wheel, right? It's a wheel that's been happening. And so they're in a space. Yeah. Some of these boards and some of these partner circles and these big firms have been together for 20 years. That's just what it is. And the people that they invite into that room are someone else that they went to school with when they were little, someone else that was, a friend of a friend. It's all within their same circle and their same bubble. So it's really having someone like me come into that space and look at them and say, all right, let's bring in some people that you trust. Even executive assistants to the partners know everything about the company inside and out. and have really good opinions that if you just brought them in and just got their opinions would help your decision making and help the future of the company, because you're bringing in new voices, new blood.
Yeah, I think this whole idea of inclusion, right, is a topic that we're hearing a lot of, and it's not just the female aspect of course, either. It's different nationality, it's different gender biases. It's being. I think companies are not doing that enough.
They are on the lower levels, but how is anyone supposed to get up high if you don't actually just invite them in the room and educate them of how that room works? And then once women get into that space, they get more confident and they realize that they're not so different from the senior roles, that they can achieve that and that it is obtainable. Like golf, right? So I went golfing this year for the first time because I'm in every business event that there has ever been this year.
Yeah.
And everyone knows that. But I was invited to this Australian golf network. And I was so scared. I don't know how to golf. I've never golfed in my life. And I got there, and our group was right before a men's group. So we were following around the course. And these guys were like hacking balls into like the forest. They were skipping whole holes. They're like, yeah, we don't like this hole. We'll skip it. And then I realized, I was like, they're not good at golf.
Yeah.
And the pro next to me, she was like, yeah, most of them aren't. They just do it for fun. And most women think they have to be good at something to do something. And men are just like, nah, we're just doing it for fun. Like, it doesn't matter. So that same mentality plugged into business is, once women are let into these rooms, they realize that we're all human and that there is they don't have magic sauce that we don't have. It's just being let into the space. And then vice versa, when men do that, you can see the numbers. When you add women into the partner level, the prosperity of the company as a whole goes up. It's proven. The numbers are theirs. And it also makes their environment happier as well. So it's a win-win on both sides. But that's my main goal, is women to ask for the raise, ask for their seat at the table, to knock on the door and just ask to be let in.
Because you say before about, at that lower levels it's happening, but I think the danger of an organization is that just becomes tokenism.
Yes, absolutely.
That's a dangerous play to play, and I don't think you want to be seen in a marketplace like that these days. I think that's a real dangerous play.
Yeah, and without the proper HR support and background for that, then it's even worse.
Yeah.
And also people who are, and this is just from education, obviously, but people who are from diverse backgrounds, so people of color, if they don't have someone in leadership to look up to talk to have that level of communication and connection, that's the worst thing that you can do. So it's always super important to make sure that if there has to be a woman in leadership, so there's a pack of women that can have someone to look up to connect with and to talk with. And also anyone who is a person of color, having someone up high who they can connect with and talk to is also really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And go on, sorry.
Yeah, and I just want to say that also you have to make sure that that doesn't become tokenism as well. So the people having one woman and one person of color in your up high partner, that's also not okay. You have to even it out.
So when we talk about, these men that you've looked up to, that have been allies and they've been supportive of you, I think this would be an interesting space to try and get a little bit of detail, delve into this and go, what were their skills? What were their attitude? What was their approach as a male leader that encouraged you, or for you to sit back right now and go, there were supportive men and there were allies in my life that helped me move into leadership roles?
Time. So first off, time and attention given towards me. They really carved out time and attention. Secondly, is they led with empathy and kindness, and really saw, they still do. I've talked to 3 of them today alone. They really believe in me. Like they look at me and they say, there's something in you that has that magic sauce. And they have literally opened up the gates and given me all the information, like every story that they could tell me about big mergers that they made or big deals that they made or difficult situations that they had to deal with CEOs, big problems, right? So not small problems. And talking me through those stories and those answers, what books they read, like they're constantly just, any information they get, they flow down to me. And that is, they treat me the same as if they're mentoring like a young male. It's like that same kind of energy. It's a very safe space that, you know, if you look at my website in the next month, I'm adding my advisors on there, and you'll see most of them are older white guys who have literally said, you are the future, let me help you, let me support you. And then my job is then in turn to share all the information with everyone that I'm connected with, and just empowering people below me. Because if I can help 10 women into leadership roles, then they can help 10, and then it's just a flow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But these guys, you know, I feel like CEOs or people in leadership are very protective of their role. They're really, in many ways, excuse the language, but they cover their ass a lot. And it sounds to me that these men that you're talking about are happy to share their wins. They're happy to share their losses. They're vulnerable.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. But vulnerable is a very dangerous word to use. I would just say open. I would say that they're open, and they're happier people because of that as well. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're male or female, but you know, if you hold information, if you're not a giving human being. I'm currently reading the Book of Joy, right, with the Dalai Lama and the Archbishop, talking about joy and what are the 4 aspects that our brain needs to create a kind of joyful existence. And scientifically, it's proven that the 4th one is giving.
Yeah.
That you have to be giving.
Yeah.
And so these people are giving, and in turn, they're getting to watch me thrive and become this entity that I'm becoming. And it feeds them as well because they're giving. So that's what it's all about. It doesn't matter if you're male or female, giving the information that you have to all those around you and empowering them to use that information. It will always come back to you full force.
So, and I think then there's an approach that a woman has to take as well. You don't want to be seen as this brash, harsh, I deserve it, I should be here type approach either, do you? There has to be a firm, assertive. I don't like the word assertive because assertive sounds aggressive, but it is this firm, assertive, be confident in who you are and what you can offer approach too, doesn't there?
I'm very careful not to speak for any other women, for myself, and how women, as you know, some firms are ruthless. And to get to the top, it doesn't matter if you're male or female, you have to be ruthless.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying at all, like, I'm not speaking for other women.
Sure.
And women making it to leadership at any way they can, they had to learn from the culture of their environment and succeed within it. And there's a book by Fiona Robertson called The Rules of Belonging. And it's the best culture workplace book I have ever read. It's really short. I know everyone's like, I don't like reading. If you are a CEO, if you are a leader, read this book. It is fantastic. But it talks a lot about how workplaces are just, they're culture bubbles. Yeah. And when you're plugged into it, you learn the rules very quickly of how I belong within this. So what you said before, I wouldn't say that, because that's a generalization of if someone had to be brash or whatever, it doesn't matter if you're male or female, they had to learn the rules of that culture and kind of build within it. Yeah, got you. Yeah. So if women are already in leadership, good for you. Let's go. Like let me know how I can help you to stay there.
And And so if you were mentoring somebody and you're trying to give them kind of 3 or 4 key things to consider as they came up the ranks, and they may not be in leadership roles yet, but they were striving to be a leader, what would be the 3 or 4 things that you'd mentor them on?
First is read the books.
Yeah, right.
Honestly, read the books, make a plan, your 5-year plan of where you see yourself, and visually see it over and over again. So for me, I see myself in 5 years, and I'm wearing a beautiful, huge dress, and I'm standing on a stage in front of a glass thingy, right? And I'm speaking to a sea of women in ball gowns as well. And it's a leadership women's conference, and I'm talking about how much money we raised for this certain charity, and I have a little earpiece in that is giving me, it's all, I can just see that. And I don't know, I don't want to define it too much because I don't know what it's going to be.
Yeah.
But that's the visualization that I see, is me saying to the sea of women, like, we did it. Something is accomplished. Like, we did it. And so that's what I would say to them, is read all the books.
Devise a plan.
And then devise a plan, even if it's just a visual plan. And then it's also about an attitude change. It really, really is. And if you think the world's against you, then the world will be against you. But if you have hope, and if you read the Book of Joy, by the Dalai Lama and the Archbishop. I'm not religious, but it's just a great book of changing mindset. And take your own power as well. Take your own power back, and know that if you have these things mixed together, that in 5 years, your whole life can change. Your whole life can change. If you also, it's really hard not to feel like the world is against you, especially right now. Like, we're just waking up every single day going, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, it's relentless. But these key things as well are for men as well. It's not just for women. It's for everybody. Like, we have to stop thinking the world's against us. We need to educate ourselves on how to be better inside and out. And building up the people around you is the last thing I'll say, will in turn build you up. You have to build the other people around you up, and it'll make you feel so good. So start giving.
And are you seeing that with some of these male mentors? Are these kind of the 4 or 5 things that they do a lot of, or is there other stuff that they do that, if you're sharing this, you could encourage other leaders to do?
Yeah, I don't want to put too much power into these male mentors, because they're just one piece of a giant puzzle. Like, I also have an incredible power women's business group that's very private, and there are 6 women, and they are CEOs, and they are badasses. And anytime I have an idea or an issue or something that's big, we have an exclusive lunch at Katarina's, and we sit down in this basement with this incredible, Katarina in Melbourne is the Italian restaurant, and she's awesome, and she sits down with us for a little bit and talks with us. But they are my conscious, my business conscious. So the male mentors, yes, I check in with them. They're there when I need them. They let me into, they really are honestly open the doors to these different spaces. But then actually what the leader I'm becoming is curated within this women's business group. And then you also have to have a friends group as well that holds on to like your soul. So you'd have 3 different layers, but it's important to also surround yourself with that power woman group. The women that make friends with women that you want to be like, that you want to have the same career as, like start creating those connections. So and they'll start rubbing off on you.
Not to simplify it, it's just that they get it.
Yeah.
I know this might be a silly example, but I know we were living in a suburb in Sydney and we had some reasonable friends and so forth, but they were all working for organisations and we owned our own business. And people didn't get it. They just, even in that simple space, and then we've moved to a different area, not because of that necessarily, but it's certainly an observation. And we live in an area where most people own their own business and they just get you. There's different conversations, there's different levels of conversations, and a sense of belonging.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting space, right? To have those people, to have those different layers of people around you.
Yeah, it's also the understanding of what it's like to be a woman in the business world, and especially the women who are now in their mid 50s and mid 60s. They were business women in the 80s and in the late 70s. Like, they were in a totally different space where they'd walk into an office, and even though they were a lawyer or an engineer, they would be like, "Hey, can you get the coffee for us? That's great. You can clean up." Like, that kind of mentality back in the 80s that, again, wasn't anyone's fault. So we can't blame and be mad at all that. That's just how the culture of that workplace worked during that time. But the work that those women did for 30 years to get to, so when I walk into an office now, no one asks me for coffee.
Yeah.
But that's the work that they did. So showing the respect to those women who have paved the way for us, they also are so much more open to being mentors to young women who want to go into leadership, because they know what it's like to be a woman within the workforce, which men will never understand.
No, and look, I'm a lot younger than you, and and I've got 3 young girls, 2 10-year-olds, 10-and-a-half-year-olds, and an almost 15-year-old who tells me she's nearly 18. And it's intriguing to watch their comments, their thoughts, and where they're at already at that age. And because of the age difference, it's incredibly challenging to me, because I was born in the 60s, worked in the 70s, and school in the 70s, worked through the 80s, 90s. I worked through that whole period that you're talking about. And I can hear some of my language that comes out is just inbred, and I'm not even thinking about it, and they're going, "You can't say that, Dad." And I go, "Oh, wow." Right. Like, it's an intriguing time to see even the young ones coming through now.
Yeah. It's important. The fact that you're even having this conversation and we're even here is beautiful. Like, you are a part of that world of opening up and learning and growing and changing and hopefully sharing that information with the people around you. Yeah.
And that's the concept of this podcast. The idea is, I didn't think I was much of a leader at all, but I deal with a lot of leaders. I run a lot of roundtable discussion groups, these mastermind groups that, having those people, like-minded people around you. And my task is to use my skill about interviewing and understanding business and facilitating conversation. And this podcast is all about that. This will get out to 100, 160, 100, 200. Well, with you, it could end up out to 1.4 million people by the sound of it. But it's about, hey, we've done things one way. It's not right or it's wrong. We just did it that way. But what do we need to do to keep moving forward? Yeah. The one constant we know of is change, and not to be, naff, but that's the one constant that we are aware of. So it's an intriguing time. It really is.
And I'm still pretty young in my career, so I'm still learning, and I'm still changing, and I'm still growing, and I just know I have a platform now. So any information I have, I'm just sharing as I'm going along. Yeah. But if you and I have this interview again in 5 years, I'll probably have a different set of values or statements that I say. This is just where I'm at currently at this moment.
And that's an interesting point. Are you willing to share what your values are? Have you articulated them clearly for yourself? I know I've got mine sitting here next to my desk. I have them there all the time. But do you have some clear-cut values that you have for yourself?
Yeah, I think that each person has to have value goals, so things that are defined. And mine, I've repeated a million times, but the 2 of them is, my goal is to get as many women into leadership as possible. Yeah. And the second thing is get as much money back into the arts as I can. Yeah. Because there's a massive disconnect between the corporate world and the art world, and there shouldn't be. Yeah. There shouldn't be. there should be just as much sponsorships from big corporations to art as there is to sports. They balance each other. And especially during this lockdown, we've learned so much that we like art. We like Netflix. We do. And guess what? Those Netflix people that are acting on that, when they were little kids, they had dance classes, they had art classes, they went to theater school when they were little. All the programs that supported them when they were children led to them going to Juilliard and NYU to be actors, right? And then they got masters in it, but all those different programs that led the person from when they were 4 years old in their little ballet class to when they were 25 getting their master's and signing an agent in New York City, those programs need support, every single one, to lead you to that Netflix that you were like, I love this show. It's because everybody on that show, including the lighting designers, the cinematographers that are on it, needed the education and support when they were children. And that's just disappearing now. And that's heartbreaking. So my goal is to get as much money back from the corporate world into the arts.
I think that's a great idea. I've had a few conversations of late, again, I stand outside of conversations a lot, not because I'm bored, but because I'm trying to just learn. And I'm surprised by the amount of people who are disparagingly talking about money being put into sport. It's becoming a bit of a theme I've heard this last month, where people are going, why is it the sport is getting all the focus, especially through lockdown and as we come out of lockdown, and people are going, I'm not really interested in the rugby that much, really. Well, there's a lot of people that aren't. It's a nice to have and it's a fun thing to have, but when it comes to the most important things in life, there's other things to be doing. There was a theatre company that was doing some stuff online. They'd filmed full-on productions, straight theatre, not musical. I don't know I can't remember what it is now. I've sat down and watched a couple of shows and it was wonderful. I'm in my own house, but I'm watching the theatre. I'm a bit of a theatre buff. So it's been phenomenal, actually. So,
and it's important to also say that, again, it's not about it being bad or it being good, right? Yeah. So sports, it's just about a balance.
Yeah.
Like, we're giving millions of dollars to sports. Let's also give millions of dollars to arts. Yeah. And I went to the University of Tennessee for my master's, and there is a big, thriving theater there, and obviously a huge football there. And the thing in the Deep South is, well, the husbands give the money to the football, and the wives give the money to the theater. And that's just how it is. But that's the kind of support that's one example, but that's the kind of support that we need to have a balance, is that just as much money goes to sports as it goes to art, because just as much as you watch a sporting thing, you turn on the next channel and you're watching, How to Get Away with Murder or something like that. And that balance, like, those people struggled for 20 years. The people that are in Hamilton, the training that it takes to get that actor to that level to be able to perform in Hamilton is 20 years of training, of singing lessons and dance lessons and acting lessons and headshots and photo shoots. So much goes into that one moment of them being on stage. And that needs to be just as supported as the same for sports. The second that guy goes off for the AFL football, how much training did he have his whole life since he was 4 years old to get to that moment? He just didn't wake up one day when he was 20 and was like, well, I'm going to be a football star.
Yeah.
No, he's been training since he could walk. So it's the same. It's just not treated as the same. And I'm so tired of watching this arts community struggle. It's exhausting.
And so in many ways, I guess it's a different perspective of leadership. You're taking on a leadership role in that, well, being a leader in driving that, I guess, aren't you?
I hope so. I hope so. And the friends that I've made in those big companies, I hope that over time I'm able to kind of just communicate with them. Again, not having expectations. That's also really important. Don't expect that NAB Bank is going to be, going to give as much money to sports as they are to arts, but having the proposal and the energy going towards that, saying, I would really, really like if the big five banks would actually look at it in the same way. And how can I help that? What conversations can I support that? Who are allies already within those big things that have children that are in theater or used to be in theater themselves that can actually support that? Because it's not only theater, right? We're talking about art, so paintings, talking about music. I mean, we have world-class musicians out of work right now who study the cello at, Juilliard and are out of work and working at McDonald's right now. Like, they shouldn't be. We should be supporting them.
Yeah. And I think what I'm hearing out of this is, if any listener is a leader and they're trying to find new skills and new thoughts or reinforce what they already know, I think this is a good podcast to share with teenage kids as well, because I think the role of being a leader can start now at 14 and at 15 and doing something different at school, or it's stepping up to your role at school and stepping up your role in sport and stepping up your role in drama and in ballet, whatever it might be. I think it's a very interesting space where this leadership journey begins.
I also think that I'm the in-between, right? In between your generation. And then we're talking about these teenagers at this moment. They're a completely different type of human being.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm so excited for their future because they've had the world at their fingertips from the second they were born. They understood how to use an iPad by the time they can move their hand.
Yeah.
So they've had this access to the truth about the world. And also right now we're having a struggle between facts and not facts. But I think this younger generation, they see through that. Like, we're having a difficult time because we're trying to translate from this old world newspapers. Like, we open a newspaper every day in the beginning when I was younger. And then now, it's a newspaper feed that's on all these different platforms, but their brains are wired in such a different way that I'm excited for them. I don't think that they're going to need as much help as we think. Right now, we're the ones that need to shift and change and start protecting their future because they're actually okay. They have all the knowledge and they know who they want to be. Every 15-year-old I meet, they understand about worldviews and gender equality and understand about LGBTQ plus inclusion. And it's beautiful. We're the issue. We're the problem right now.
So get them in the room earlier.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I have in the room earlier, right?
I literally have a TikTok consultant. She is a 14-year-old girl, and I send things to her, and she gives me thoughts.
Yeah.
But I have a consultant who is a 14-year-old girl who is a TikTok god, and that's why I was like, okay, I'm going to build a TikTok for an accounting firm. That's what I did because I understood that where eyes are is where your brand needs to be. And that doesn't mean that I'm having the accountants do TikTok dances. We're not doing that. Like, I'm not having like the partner of the law of the firm.
That'd be kind of fun at the Christmas party.
Right? No. But it's about adapting to their generation.
Yeah.
Listening. They're the future business leaders. We're the ones that are stuck in this kind of ancient. I have no doubt that they will have equality on all levels, and I hope the only people that can mess that up is us.
I think that's where true leadership is now. I think that's the true leadership, is to be able to, maybe vulnerable is too strong a word, but to be open, to be honest, to be willing, to be agile, to be, and enable people to come in and listen to what they have to say.
The last thing I want to say is about visibility online, and being a leader and being visible online is so important. And sharing your ideas and your thoughts and the different spaces, specifically LinkedIn, you need to be there. That's where you need to be. If you're a business leader, you have to be on LinkedIn. Create your profile. If you need help, write me. That's fine. But come at it with a positive attitude. Because what's happening too is that older generations have such a negative attitude when it comes to online stuff, social media. I just hate it. I absolutely hate it. So instead of hating it, we're going to just put a little calendar thing in your calendar once a week that says LinkedIn time, exclamation point, and you go on LinkedIn, you write an article, you comment on a couple of people's things, you post your ideas. Positivity creates positivity, but you have to change your relationship with social media. It's not going anywhere. I'm sorry. It's where we are now. But if you create a positive relation with it as a leader, it's gonna be so much easier. Just set time for it.
I think as an educationalist, it's about saying, the saying I use is don't fight it, adapt to it. It's here. The reason they don't like it is because they don't understand it. So therefore, understand it. And if you don't understand it, hire a 14-year-old consultant to help you with it.
Seriously.
There we go.
And yeah.
Awesome. Look, in the interest of time, we do need to shut it off, but we do need to get a little bit of a personal background about you. So there's the American accent. There's a passion for theatre, and I did read up a little bit. You're a bit of a star, young lady.
No.
You've done some stuff.
I've done some stuff. So I was 4 years old, and I told my mother that I wanted to be an actor, and she invested in me from a very young age to do so. So I was trained at the highest level to do that from a very young age. I got my bachelor's from the Cal State Fullerton. I have a master's from the University of Tennessee, which is rated a top 10 university for my master's in the world. Wow. I was signed in New York City to a big agent. I worked at the Public Theater in New York City. I had an off-Broadway play I was in. I've been in over 44 productions through my life. So movies, TV, a couple of commercials, not good ones though, so don't look those up. And I was a professional background singer when I was younger, so I loved to sing. I've been a hyperactive child, though, from a very early age. So I built my first company when I was 7, and I have supported all the adults around me in building their businesses. So it's just been, and in New York City, when I lived there between jobs, there was a recruitment company that I'd work with, and one of them was like, hey, Mel, can you come in and just figure out what this guy did, this executive? And I was like, sure. And so I was 26 years old in a high rise in New York City on like the second to top floor. And there was a couple of weeks I went through this executive's emails, papers, everything, and wrote a manual of what I thought he did. Right. And that was the first experience I had where I was like, he didn't really do anything. This man made $250,000 a year and didn't do much. And then I was like, some people don't know what they're doing. So at 26, my brain was like, I can do this.
Yeah.
I used to be a professor. So I used to teach Shakespeare, which I love, which I still do on the weekends. So I still teach in drama clubs. So other artists, I just share my information. I teach playwriting courses. I'm currently helping bankrolling a new women's publication magazine, which is coming out. My brain doesn't stop though. So people are like, how do you find time? I'm like, I've been this way my whole life. Yeah. Like I literally have like a dream board in front of me. And when I'm not at work doing growth and engagement, I'm doing the 4 other things I'm doing.
Wonderful. You have an amazing energy, and your energy comes through your social, and hence the reason I reached out. I am very happy that I do know what Juilliard is. I was actually impressed I knew that, and you're doing some wonderful stuff, and I'm sure you're going to achieve some of these dreams that you've got on your dream board because of your passion for it. And congratulations on what you've achieved so far.
Thank you so much. And if anyone needs support or needs to pick me up or needs help, just reach out to me on LinkedIn. And yeah.
I'd highly encourage that. As I said at the beginning of this episode, folks, that I don't know Melissa at all, and most of my interviews have been from people I do know or have had some connection with. Her willingness to chat, to open up and share her information is I'm incredibly grateful for, and I'm sure she's going to be there to help you as well along your leadership journey. So, Mel, thank you so much. Wonderful chat, and I look forward to seeing some more updates on social with you.
See you soon. Bye.
Take care.